No price talk and no Lambos. This is not another crypto podcast. Welcome to Ignition. I'm your host, Jillian, and each week we will be looking at the problems solved by blockchain. I'll be going deep with the people building the apps and communities which are changing the world around us. Welcome to EOS Dublin's podcast Ignition. Today I have a very interesting lady on the line, all the way from Oregon in the US. And my guest has two names. I'm not content with one. She's got two. Her birth name or her given name is Lee Peterson, but she has a nom de plume, if you like, Katie Roman. Katie, I'm going to call you Katie. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So I think after that introduction, you'll have to explain why you use your name Katie in the EOS platform.
Sure. So you and I were speaking about this briefly before the podcast, but what happened is when I was first learning about blockchain and EOS Go, which was a neutral news organization at the time, kind of put out an open call for all writers saying, listen, if you write an article and we think it's good, we'll publish it for you and kind of get it some exposure. So I decided one day, I was like, that sounds like something that I could do. So I went ahead and I wrote the article. And before sending it in, I shared it with my husband, who has his own little financial advising firm. And at the time, just with everything going on with blockchain and regulation, he was like, whoa, you're going to write about blockchain? I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. So compromise we came up with was that I was going to publish under a fake name. And I picked Katie Roman for a few different reasons. But I published under Katie Roman. The article got some traction. I was asked to write more articles for EOS Go, and I continued to publish under that name. And here we are a year and a half later, and I'm still Katie Roman.
That's so cool. And tell me, when you write as Katie, do you think you write differently than you would if you wrote as Leah?
Absolutely not. I'm not talented enough for that.
I was thinking perhaps sometimes, if you have an alter ego, you could be more, aggressive or compromising or passionate or whatever, Anyway, so we're going to call you Katie because that's kind of your given name, your nom de plume in the EOS community. So you are, another interesting fact, you're a community manager for EOS Asia.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of fun. What happened is pre the EOS launch, I was just a person in the community, a community volunteer. I was volunteering for EOS Go for a few months, and then we parted ways amicably just because there are different things they wanted to do and I wanted to do, and they weren't aligning at the time. So I was just, a loud person on Telegram and on forums, just giving my opinion. And I was having fun. I'm a stay-at-home mom. He's 2 now with a 2-year-old. So I had time on my hands to just kind of play around. And in doing so, I got to know a lot of community members. A lot of those people I got to know were block producers. And a few block producers started reaching out to me preemptively before launch saying, hey, once launch happens, we're going to need someone who's kind of just loud on Telegram and interacts with the community. Would you be interested? For me, this is like a gold mine. I'm like, yes. You mean you want to pay me just to do what I've been doing fast and write little articles there? Absolutely. So EOS Asia and I worked out a great deal. I get along with the two founders very well. And now I'm employed by them as their community champion, as they call it. And it's been fun.
Yeah, that's super. So I was on the EOS Asia website, the block producers. It's a very interesting group of people. Tell me a little bit about they're calling them super fans. They're from all over Asia and Oregon. But tell me a bit about the people, the actors involved.
Absolutely. So I am actually being based in Oregon, and our two founders are in Shanghai, China. And then we have another lead in Korea, and we have another lead in Hong Kong, I believe. And then we have Tyler Diaz as an advisor. And frankly, I don't know where he is. Somewhere in the world.
He's decentralized someplace.
Yeah, he's somewhere. But I work most closely with Stefan and Joe, the two founders. Mm-hmm. And it was quite interesting because, of course, we're in this decentralized world, which one of the benefits seems to be they're very open, these block producers, for their employees working everywhere and anywhere. as we mostly just communicate online. But I have, working with Joe, he was involved in, I believe it was Dash and Neo, pre-EOS. Mm-hmm. And so he had his foot in the door in blockchain. And he's very talented as far as website design and marketing and community. And he had been doing that for a while. He's Italian. He's originally from Italy, but he moved to Shanghai, China to go to school because he liked the culture and he kind of felt like they were on the cutting edge there. So he lives in the community. He actually started with a block producer, EOS Gravity, working as their community manager. But then he met Defeng, and after a series of months, he decided, why am I going to be employee 14 at EOS Gravity when I could be a co-founder at EOS Asia? And so they created EOS Asia, I believe, in the January before launch. Defeng is an interesting person. He's actually a very successful kind of businessman in China. He is a co-founder of Strikingly, which is a website building platform that I had actually been using for years before I met these guys.
Oh, so that's interesting.
It was. I was actually like, oh, I could build us a little website for this or that using Strikingly. And they just laughed. They're like, you use that? It's quite big in China. And I'm like, oh, yeah, why? And it's like, well, you're speaking to one of the founders. I was like, oh, my. So he actually was just in China in their publication of Forbes 30 Under 30. So I found out he's a little bit of a rock star over there. And
that's
he's
amazing.
A little famous over there. Yeah. So
wow.
So this is who I work with most closely. And they're really sweet, nice guys, super down to earth.
There's a huge connection too as well, I think, isn't it, with the Y Combinator, the Silicon Valley incubator?
Yes, it does. Although I'm not too versed on,
all right.
on that. I do know, though, that they are friends with Tim Draper, and Defeng did have a company in Silicon Valley in the United States before visa issues sent him back to China. And he ended up launching Strikingly, I believe, thereafter. So they're well connected in Silicon Valley, and it was actually quite funny because I grew up in the Silicon Valley, and I had been working there for little startups before I moved to Oregon. And so one of a program I attended over there was run by Tim Draper. And so when I first met them, I was, kind of name dropping. I'm like, we should, reach out to Tim Draper. And they're like, yeah, he's our friend. Like, what should we talk to him about?
Oh, that's funny. Because actually, Tim just accepted my LinkedIn invitation there a week ago. But I don't know what he did or his secretary did. I don't know. I went back and I said, hi, Tim.
You need to get him on your podcast.
Oh, well, yes.
He's circling blockchain, it seems like.
Wow. Well, maybe I might use your connections then.
Oh, why
to
not?
get an introduction. That would be amazing.
I'm sure Defeng wouldn't mind. He'd probably love to make an introduction.
That would be fabulous because I've got 2 outlets that I would definitely want to interview him for. So that would be amazing. And on here with the EOS podcast too as well. Do I was going through the EOS Asia site and I loved it. It's like Avenger of the EOS community. That's real fighting talk, isn't it? It's a very emotional site. Is that your writing or is that somebody else's?
That is someone else's handiwork. They have another team member who's not listed on the website, Tang. He's an excellent verbal and communicator. And I believe he built the website and designed it. And he's a talented artist. He's also based in China. But yes, pre-launch, there was so much of that kind of rhetoric going around. And the community was just so passionate and so ready to launch the chain and really fight, the blockers really fight not only for a position as a block producer on the mainnet, but really to uphold the standards that we had all collectively been outlining for the mainnet launch. So it's quite funny now as it has toned down a bit post-launch, that kind of language, but I believe that writing kind of a throwback to the feelings people were having pre-launch, that we knew we were going to have to kind of fight off these bad actors, and we knew we were going to kind of really have to advocate for the community. Not to say that we're not now and VCs aren't now, but it was really quite a different feeling, a different vibe pre-launch.
Yeah. Well, I was interviewing Thomas Cox a little while ago, and he was very interesting. He was saying that there is such, with the EOS platform and ecosystem, there is such an amount of emotion in there. There's empathy, there's women, there's creatives, there's a lot of people that want to make the world a better place, active in EOS, more so than maybe other. It's more like emotion led than technology led.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I came into this and very quickly got involved into EOS before I learned about other blockchain communities. But when I kind of went back, as to explore other communities and learn more about blockchain, it was something that stood out. I'm like, oh, our little community is so tight knit and passionate and active. And quite a lot of other blockchain communities are very much around Moon and Lambo and it's about the price and all this stuff. I mean, we've been hanging on as a community around that 5 USD evaluation of the coin for a while now, and people are still just giving it their all. It really is, I think, something that's unique in the blockchain world.
I think so too. I mean, I speak to a lot of different people. I wear different hats, but so far the EOS community has been very powerful, and everybody in it, like no more than yourself, they're passionate and they're interested and they're empathetic. That's very, very powerful.
It is, and it does get emotional. My husband calls the people I work with online my internet friends, and he's like, I'll have a mood or something around the house, and he's like, what's happening? And I'm like, oh, I just got in an argument with one of my internet friends, or we were disagreeing on this, or I'm so happy because we were speaking about this, and I'm hopeful for X, Y, and Z to happen. It's really quite strict if I'm saying it out loud. People I've never met in real life, you get so connected to them, and you want the best for them. And, even Dan Larimer, the CTO of Block One, I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. He's in the Telegram community as well, speaking to anyone.
Yeah.
It's very strange, but in a wonderful way.
I agree with you. And I love doing these podcasts because the people that I talk with are just fascinating. And again, but it's this common thread. It's not just a technology. It is kind of a way of life, isn't it?
It is. And for me, it came at such a good, interesting time in my life. I was pregnant when I first got into it with my first child, about 7 months pregnant. And I had decided to quit working for financial reasons. It didn't make sense for me to work with what I was making at the cost of what daycare would be.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like here in Ireland, yeah.
It's really a problem we need to tackle worldwide. So I was like, all right, now I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's what I'm doing now. And soon after the arrival of my son, I believe he was around 2 or 3 months old, I got a little depressed. And, I don't know if you have children or have been around newborns, but they're not the most exciting.
I have two grown-up children, yes. Two grown-up adults.
So perhaps you can relate. So here I am. My husband's at work. I'm alone in this tiny house all day with this creature that doesn't communicate very well. And when he does, it's to yell at me. And I was lonely. My family is in California. They're not in Oregon. So I was a bit lonely. And I was speaking to a friend, and she told me, she's like, well, you know what you should do? She's like, you should get into blockchain and cryptocurrency, and you should day trade. And I'm like, day trade? And she's like, yes. She's like, you would be great at it because your husband, he's a financial advisor. Maybe some of that has rubbed off on you, some kind of knowledge, and you'll be excited watching the charts rise and fall. It's completely volatile and wonderful. And she was like, and my husband and I have made quite a bit of money just playing around in these coin markets. So I was like, well, I'm pretty bored. I guess I will. So I looked into it, and of course I learned about Bitcoin and then Ethereum, and I never day traded because it was just so beyond me.
I would agree with you. Day trading has no interest for me whatsoever. Blockchain, yes. Day trading, I'd rather pull my nails out. Horrible.
Right. And it's frustrating for someone like me, those lovely volatilities she was speaking about, which she and her husband made some money on. I was just like, I can tell I'm going to lose it all. I was like, this is not for me. But in doing so, I found I was reading articles on Steemit. I learned about the Steem blockchain, and then I quickly learned about EOS. So for me, it is just kind of more than a way to make money. It's like you said, a way of life. I've made so many friends, and it's something good to advocate for, and it's something I can believe in. And it's something that inspired me to start taking classes on coding online in my spare time, just because, it really is, it's just a bit of fun, and that's turned into, sometimes my husband feels like I've joined a cult. He's like, what is this?
That's funny.
Yeah.
But I get that, because my friends are all looking at me as if I've got two heads. And I actually had an argument at a dinner party recently where the person kept on saying it's a Ponzi scheme. I'm going, oh, for goodness sake. It's not about the coins. Well, it is about the coins, but it's not. It's much, much, much more than that. And I could not make him see that it wasn't just about the price of Bitcoin. It was so frustrating. So, I got proper shouty. I hugged him afterwards. I did. When I calmed down, I said, but I got shouty because I thought, listen to me.
Yes, it's quite like, I can't speak for you, but it's quite like politics in the U.S.
Yes.
Which I thought I was escaping that. And really, I've just fallen into kind of another political role here, where you're speaking to people who may have just read about Bitcoin 2 or 3 times, but they're the experts, and you're the dum-dum.
Yeah. Well, actually, funnily enough, in 2014, it's a strange history. I ran in the European parliamentary elections. So it's very like politics. It's so polarizing. And no matter what you say, people have different notions about different things. And everybody has an opinion. What do they say? Opinions are like, whaties. Everybody has one. That was me self-censoring there. So tell me now, go back to the EOS thing. So you're the community manager. What does it mean on a day-to-day? Are you in chat rooms, in Telegram, or what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So I work 30 hours a week, and basically I start my day opening my phone, ladies and gentlemen. I open my phone and I pull open the Telegram app, and I just read all the conversations I missed. I chime in, probably to the frustration of many, with my, comments here and there. Sometimes, criticism or praise or all this stuff. I help run a community and news channel on Telegram, which is called The Wire. So if I find any interesting news or articles I've come across in my catch-up time, I'll send it there. If there's any news that I think is more substantial or deserves a deeper look, I send that to my coworker, Jerry, and he runs the EOS Go arm of EOS Asia. EOS Asia acquired the EOS Go brand not too long ago, like a year and a half ago. And he takes care of that. And then I check in with my little internet friends. Hey, what's going on with this? I've read this or that. Is that true? Is this accurate? What do you think of this? Don't you hate this person? They're getting on my nerves. I do my little routine, and then I focus on my tasks. And Joe and I meet together his morning, my evenings, because he's in China, to discuss what we need to do for the next day. And usually those tasks involve writing tutorials or news articles or marketing one-pagers, and working on further expanding the EOS Asia brand and further expanding our influence in the community. So that requires, I do quite a bit of writing. I do quite a little bit of marketing research. Joe really does the lion's share, if I'm honest there. But I assist, and we come up with plans together. We have big plans for our space in the community. And unfortunately, we've been really falling in our rankings as block producers. When the chain first launched, we were one of the initial top 21 VCs, and we hung out there for a few months in the top 21. But now we find ourselves really around the 30 range, and it's just been slipping. So we're really trying to plan for a future in which we might not be standby block producers, and what that would look like. But we always want, Joe, where his passion is in community building and really just making EOS easy for people that aren't involved in EOS yet. You know, that hope to reach beyond Telegram, that hope to reach beyond Reddit, beyond Twitter, and really tap on someone's shoulder. Maybe another stay-at-home mom, maybe a kid that just graduated and is like, I don't know if I want to go work for AT&T right out the gate. Is there really money to be made in this blockchain thing? And kind of reach those people that are going to be smarter and more talented and better equipped to grow this ecosystem than we are currently.
That's very cool.
So that's kind of, it's so funny because you meet people every day and they're brilliant in real life. And you're like, I want to teach them about EOS because I think they could really thrive. I'm kind of going on a rabbit trail here.
No. You're echoing my thoughts. I mean, I am like a prophet, whatever. I'm a zealot going around the place the whole time talking about blockchain. I'm saying, get into it. And I meet young people. I say, get into it. And I half think I'm mad, but I think there's so much opportunity there for people to not only work and have a living, you know, the things you need to put food on the table, but to make a difference, to actually make a difference. It's such opportunity. So tell me another topic that's very close to my heart, and I think it's to you as well, about women in blockchain. That's an area that you're also very passionate about. You mentioned even you said like a stay-at-home mom, which, I mean, a stay-at-home mom is so important, but to think you could be a stay-at-home mom and yet make a big difference, that's cool.
It is. And I am involved, I should mention, in the Empower Women Proxy group, which is, it's nascent stages. We haven't even really officially announced what our plans are and what we want to do. But the thinking there was, we are meeting so many lovely men in the EOS ecosystem. And there has, at least in my experience, they've been very welcoming and opening, but yet there is still a gap, right? And I'm just speaking for me personally at this point. And the gap is a numbers game. There's like 90% men being generous. There's maybe 10% women. You know, I did not pull the numbers, people. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. So that's just, there's numbers there. As you know, the population is slightly more women than men on this beautiful planet. So if we really do want to expand the EOS ecosystem, it's only natural that we're going to have to pull in tons of more ladies into the space and educate them. The other gap is that it's a heady topic, right? And I'm not a developer. I'm not a sysadmin person. I'm not a computer geek, but I found a spot, right? And a lot of women, I think there is a lot of space for people in both capacities. There's a lot of women, you know, push for STEM is really big in my country right now to get more girls involved in STEM. And this is such a new ecosystem. I really think if we do our jobs correctly and get a lot of women in as early as possible, we can kind of buck those trends in blockchain.
I'm a big fan. I've been laughing and saying for the first time in my career, my gender and my age is a positive. Wow. I'm a woman and I'm 53 and a half. And this is the opening line to many of my speeches. I'm going, I'm so happy to be a woman in here. But obviously you're right. 50% or plus, even as you said, of the world is made up of women. We should have 50% women in here too as well, because blockchain needs women. It needs men, but it needs women too as well. For, you know, we all know what lack of diversity does to organizations, and to bring in diversity, and then just that gender imbalance alone, we need to address it. So, you know, I'm very glad to speak with you today. And I go out and I rant and rave myself a lot. Come on, women, get in here. Because again, what I love is you can make your living from it. I mean, you're a stay-at-home mom, which is very important, but you could make a living, and you can change the direction of the world. How amazing is that? And I'm going to say this sounds very strange. You're kind of, you are and you're not. You're an ordinary person. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if you have got like 10 PhDs and you split the atom and you've run a mile in 2 minutes, whatever. You know, you're an ordinary person, but you're making a huge difference. Wow.
Yes, absolutely. And it has been such a great opportunity because of that. And that, I will say, that's another thing about this EOS community is it's arms wide open. It truly is just arms wide open.
Yes.
So I think, the sky's the limit. We could get some more ladies involved. When EOS Dublin told me about your podcast, I was like, yes.
Well, I'm delighted to have you on here because I've had a lot of men so far, you know. Are you my first woman? Oh, you might even be. I think you are my first female subject. Wow. Wow.
Oh,
That's cool.
I'm
Awesome.
very honored.
Well, I mean, Sharif said, you got to talk to Katie. She's a super EOS woman. Superstar.
There are more women coming in, and some are just so brilliant. You being one of them, I've just loved your podcast. And
we can all be extraordinary, ordinary people. I think that's what the joy of it is. I can't run a mile in so many minutes, and I'm never going to split any atoms or anything like that. But I feel I have an opportunity to make a difference, and just be myself, and that is so cool that people can be themselves and earn a living, which is super, obviously, but to make a difference. I think that is because again, speaking with Thomas Cox a few weeks ago, he was saying that people to succeed, they need three things. It was autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And the last one, I really get the purpose. Like if you have a purpose in life, it is so much more satisfying as a human being to have a purpose. It's not money, it's not Lambos, it's not big houses and fast cars and loose women, as I say, but it's a purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. I completely agree. And Thomas is so wonderful.
Oh my goodness. He was explaining loads of stuff to me. I'm going, oh, I haven't heard. Oh my goodness. He's just so brainy. And because he's interesting as well, because he's not a petrol head. He's actually, a behavioral scientist, and he's done all this other stuff that is, obviously governance and consensus is a big thing, but all his thinking is really interesting. It's life thinking. It doesn't matter whether it's a blockchain or not. It's life thinking, and he's clever man. I learned a lot from him, actually.
Yes, he is, and he's a warm person too. Mm-hmm. He's not, he'll speak to anyone about anything at any time.
Yeah, we sure did. So I'm going to wrap up this call now because we're just going over the half hour, and people like to listen to just like 30 minutes or so. So thank you so much, Katie. I love your enthusiasm. We're going to talk again, that's for sure. Let me know more about your Empowering Women initiative, because I'd love to help out there, be part of whatever. I don't know. I am so keen, like you, to get women involved. Young girls, old girls like me, young girls, whatever, any women involved, because I think that's the way that blockchain will succeed.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me on the show. I've had so much fun, and I'm excited for your next episode.
Excellent. Woo. Okay, Katie Roman, aka Lee Peterson, from EOS Superhero from EOS Asia, the community manager. Thank you so much indeed for your time today.
Thank you.